All right. So today we are going to be focusing on character creation, specifically creating character sheets in Roll20, not using CharacterMancer. CharacterMancer is a good thing, but it's not a thing that I personally use or am equipped to do a tutorial on. So we're going to be doing manual. First things first, assuming you're already in Roll20, I have switched over so that I am on player mode, not on GM mode. So I have the same view as everybody else right now. If you are a player, it should be just like this. You go to the third tab, Journal, and click plus character. First off, CharacterMancer, like I said, it's good, but it's not for me. If you want to use it, that's great, but I can't help you with it. As far as a manual character goes, whether it's CharacterMancer or not, you're going to need to upload a picture, which you can either click this button and upload it from your computer, or you can go to your art library, which would be the second tab, and then switching over to my library off of premium assets if that's selected, and then finding whatever asset that you already have, in which case you would just drag it and drop it. This is your avatar, your artwork. This is what your character looks like, and this is what the token looks like. I highly recommend you use the same image for both. It simplifies things. It keeps things from being confusing. Anything that I do will always have the same for these two. You could also just as easily upload and get whatever image you want there instead. So let's assume you find what you want. You're happy with it. Let's do something different just for funsies. You would name them here. Save changes. Now you would pick either using the CharacterMancer or edit the sheet directly. You can also create an NPC if you are a DM, or if you're creating, for example, your companion character or a summon or whatever. But for now, we're going to edit the sheet directly. So throughout the character creation process, you're going to want to use the compendium. That's the fourth tab here at the top. And you can type things in about your character that you're going to need, like equipment or class abilities or spells or any other number of things. And assuming you have the information in your compendium, it will pop up here. You may not always find everything here. Things from the core rulebook, the player's handbook, that sort of thing, you will find here. Things from the expansions are purchasable. If you have the Roll20 assets, then they will show up, but not everything will always show up, especially if you're just on vanilla, in which case you'll have to manually input things. But just as an example, let's say you know you're going to have a longsword. So we'll type in longsword or some portion of longsword, and we can find weapon masteries, proficiencies. Now that 2024 and 2014 are two different versions of 5e, they've got both, and you can see in parentheses here, it's got the year. All of this is going to be 2014. I'm sure it's all the same for 2024 as far as character creation on the sheet goes, but I don't have any personal experience with it, so we're going to stick to 2014 today. So let's say you drag and drop. This is a proficiency, not the item, but if you were to drag and drop the proficiency, you'll see right here under proficiencies, weapon, longsword. The item is a little bit more dynamic. Let's drop it in. So now, not only is it an item that's in our inventory under our equipment list, but it also adds the attack automatically under the attack section. If we click the gear, we can see it. Longswords are strength-based. It adds proficiency. It's got the correct damage type. It adds the strength of the damage. Everything is all pre-prepared here. If, for example, you have a +1 longsword, you could drop it off right here. It's +1 longsword. You do the same thing. All of that would be included here as well. For example, let's say you have a longsword that does 2d6 acid damage. So you drop your longsword in just like we already did. You can click the gear, and you'll see there's more than one damage type. Just click on the second damage type, add 2d6, and the type is acid. Close the gear, And if we go to the chat, we can see as soon as we click on the button and roll, it rolls not only the regular damage, but also the acid. Okay, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. The point is that the compendium is very helpful, and we will be using that throughout this demonstration at various points. So you'll see me reference this compendium over and over. Some things we'll be doing manually, some things we'll be doing in the compendium. It's case by case, but you'll want to get used to and familiar with using the compendium when making a character. Just the core tab here. So we got their 4 tabs: core, bio, spells, and the gear. The core tab is our main primary #1 tab. We're going to be using it more than anything else. You'll see your main stats here. They are editable. You can roll your stats or use a standard array, or however you derive your stats. You can simply go through and put them in just like so. I tab twice to get from one to the next. Makes it nice and easy, quick. But you can also just click and highlight and erase and type in the correct number, and the modifier is automatically applied. This also is going to automatically change your armor class, your initiative, and other things that are derived from your stats, including your skills. Whenever you're making a character, you'll pick a class. Let's say I want to be a cleric. As soon as I pick cleric, automatically some things begin to fill out. Let's say I'm an elf and I'm a life cleric. And let's make this level 3 to start off with. As you change certain things, for example, your level, other things will also change. So you'll notice your proficiency bonus is 2. If I were to switch to level 10, suddenly my proficiency bonus is 4, which changes everything else that has proficiency based on it. So let's say if I had Dex trained as a proficiency, as a save, it's +5 at level 10, whereas at level 1, it's only a +3. Automatically changes. Same thing is true with skills. Whenever you pick your class at character creation, you would have a certain number of skills based on your class and your background, and possibly race, possibly also feat. You would pick them here, just check them off. Saves, skills, proficiencies. As I said earlier, you can drag and drop them in from the compendium, like you saw me do with the weapon, the longsword proficiency. Personally, what I like to do is edit and manually do this part. So for weapon, let's say I'm a cleric, I've got simple weapons. Easy enough. Languages, you can drag and drop each individual language, or you can just type them in as a list. Elven, Dwarven, Common, etc. And then whenever somebody asks what languages do you speak, you click one button, and a list of all of the languages that you speak are all pasted all at once. Same thing with weapons. Let's say you're a fighter, simple weapons, martial weapons. Same thing with armor. Light armor, medium armor, heavy armor, shields. You get the picture. That covers most of our tool proficiencies are right here. They're their own separate section. So this is kind of an aside, but I feel like it's necessary because I feel like this is one of the rules that get confused a lot with tools. A tool proficiency is basically the same thing as a skill proficiency. It's just a tool instead of a skill. It works the same way. It's tooled off of a stat, just like a skill is tooled off of a stat. So let's say I'm doing blacksmithing, and I'm proficient in blacksmithing, or maybe I'm a jack of all trades, or maybe I have expertise in it. Let's say I'm proficient. Maybe it's strength blacksmithing because I'm hammering something, or maybe it's intelligence blacksmithing because I'm trying to, recall a particular recipe formula for ratio between flux and, and ore or some shit like that. Whatever. Most of them have a particular. So, for example, blacksmithing is very often based on strength. You can just leave it like that. So when you roll it, it automatically adds strength. Or depending on your DM and how they run things, they may often switch up in which case you could pick query attribute so that whenever you click it, it pops up with a macro option, and you can simply select whichever stat you want to roll it off of at the time. Manually adding equipment is very similar to other things. You just type it in as far as down here. This does not link it to anything when you're manually typing it in. If you drag and drop it in, it will link it to this. So for example, if I delete this longsword, it automatically deletes the attack that the longsword was applied. Whereas if I type in longsword, and then I manually add longsword here and put in the correct things, they're not linked because I manually added them separately. So if I delete the longsword, I've still got the attack for later if I plan to put another longsword in, or if I need to delete them both, I can, however you want to do it. Just be aware that they are linked whenever you're dragging them into the compendium, whereas if you're doing it manually, it's not. Another thing, you can add notes. So for example, on crit imposes disadvantage to the start of your next turn. So that now whenever I swing, it attacks and it adds the information so that anytime you're attacking with that weapon, whatever information that you deem appropriate will be attached to that attack every time. So you can manually add class features. Let's say I want to be a cleric, so channel divinity. And you can pick if it's a racial, class, feat, background, item, or other source. You don't have to put anything. You leave choose, and it just won't have that line at all. You can pick the source type, which usually I'll put that sort of thing in just for reference. But so like cleric 1, that sort of thing. Channel divinity description here. Somebody's playing with a token in the background, I see. The other option, as I said, would be type it in the compendium. And we can find 2014 channel divinity feature. And a lot of times it'll be like duplicates, like this is the free basic rules version, whereas this is also the free basic rules version. Yeah, well, anyway, it's the same thing. It can be a little confusing. Either way, though, there it is. Drag and drop it, and all the information is there. Except, of course, I grabbed ritual casting, which is confusing. So yeah, beware of strange bugs, because that sort of thing happens. So yeah, if things like that go on, then manual is your better option, potentially. Gotten weapon attack editing. Let's go with a spell attack. Firebolt. Firebolt. All right, so drag and drop Firebolt, which we'll see when we get the spells, is now on our cantrip list. But I'm dragging it for the core because it also adds it to your attack. So just like the others, you click and it will fire off a firebolt like so. It is, when you're dragging and dropping it into the compendium, it is sensitive to your level. So if I were now suddenly a level 19, it goes from 1d10 force damage to 4d10 force damage, just like any cantrip should. But it automatically applies all of that, which is done here by this formula in the damage line. That formula there. But you can edit these as well. Let's say you have the thing that lets you change what flavor of damage you do. You can go in and change it to acid damage. You can change the name into acid bolt. That sort of thing. You generally have pretty much full control over your character sheet and all the aspects of it. You can manually change your AC, make it correct, or again with the compendium, excuse me, if we were to drop some armor in there, it will automatically populate it correctly. You can also uncheck it, take it off, check it to put it back on. Again, that is something that is applied when you use the compendium. If you are manually hitting the plus sign and typing in half plate, there's no easy way to link that to your AC. It's not impossible, but it's not going to be covered here today. Let's say an ally cast Bless, right? So that means that I get a plus 1d4 to my saves and to my attack rolls. So how do I apply that? How do I make that actually, integrate into everything instead of having to manually like type it out or whatever? We're going to go to the gear, top right corner. And in this top right block, you'll see these sections of check marks. So show global save modifier field, global skill, attack, damage, AC. I don't usually use AC. It doesn't happen often enough. And personally, I tend to manually add my AC in, so I'll just manually change it. Excuse me 1 second. So yeah, you'll check those. And that will open up these new blocks. So you'll see global save modifier. And I actually use Bless as the example. You would put in the name and the amount. This can be a static number or a dice roll. They both work. And then when you do not have Bless, you simply uncheck it. When you do have Bless, you check it. If you've got more than one modifier, you hit the plus sign, add in the next one. So on and so forth. The attacks, same way. Bless is the example, the name, the roll, or the static. Damage modifier, same thing, except that you have critical damage because some things will do extra on crit. So if you have one of those rare edge cases where you do extra on crit, you would put the additional amount there. And if it's got its own type of damage, so like if it's acid damage, you can put that there. If it's not, then you can just leave it blank and it will apply it without adding a tag. Skills, same thing. Name, amount. You can add multiple. Check it to uncheck it. Guidance is the example they use here. It affects all your skills. And then there's, like I said, defense. I don't really use it. I don't really see the point. But it would be down here. Okay. Counters, token, or assets. So
I'm wondering, would you be able to use the defense to, like, say, calculate resistance to a specific damage type?
no, this is AC, not damage reduction. Resistance is half damage.
Yeah, okay.
That would just be taking the amount of damage done and cutting the number in half. This is whether or not something hits, adding to your AC bonus. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So ammunition and like key points, anything that you have a resource track to track would be here. You'd have your total amount. Let's say you've got one channel divinity a day, 1 out of 1, the big number being how much you currently have, and then you can name it. You can hit the gear, and if it's something that uses proficiency bonus times per day, there's a checkbox. If you hit that, it just makes it statically that. If you have a different amount that's not proficiency bonus, you wouldn't check that. If it replenishes on short rest, if it replenishes on long rest, you can check those. And then whenever let's say you use it and you click the appropriate button, it resets it and refills it for you. You can add more of these. There's no limit to the number of these you can have. You have to do them 2 at a time for whatever reason, but if you have an odd number, just leave one blank. That mostly covers the first front core page. Your passive perception is automatically derived from your modified perception here. Money, copper, silver, electrum, gold, platinum goes there. Personality traits, ideals, bonds, flaws. Once you've typed them in, you hit the gear and it makes them so that you don't accidentally erase it or whatever. Speed, just manually put in your number. Inspiration is a toggle. Just toggle it on and off. That is about it. You'll see encumbrance here. I will show you this real quick. Let's say I've got, bulk items and they weigh 100 pounds each, and I've got 4 of them. So now I am over carrying capacity. This kind of leads me into talking about the gear a little bit. There's a lot of options here. But carrying capacity is a couple of them. You have modifiers, like if you have the strong back ability or whatever, the double carrying capacity modifier. This would be where you put that multiplier in. And then there are encumbrance rules here. There's variant rules, simple rules, or if you just don't care, you can just turn them off. You can also ignore non-equipped items weight. So basically, I usually do this. I usually toggle this on because of bags of holding and other non-dimensional space carrying. So you can just uncheck things that are in the bag. You don't have to carry it. You don't have to carry the weight, and makes it a lot easier to keep track of that way. All right. I'll come back to this in a minute. For now, with the bio, there's nothing really to go over. It's just a bunch of blank boxes. You've got the sections, but you just use them for whatever you want. It's 5 boxes to type things in. Also, personal traits: eyes, skin, hair, size, age, etc. Spells. Pretty straightforward. If you're not a spellcaster, you can ignore this. You don't have to do anything with this page if you are not a spellcaster. If you are, this is going to be an important page for you. You can, as you saw with the spell earlier, you can drag and drop whatever you like in Blessed Cure Wounds were added because I picked Life Cleric, I think. No, that was typed in. I'm not sure why that's preached, but well, it's good because those are 2 things you really, really want as a cleric anyway. Not that a cleric would have a modified firebolt. Alarm spell. 2014, drag and drop. You'll notice it's got the spell slots. As you use them, you can mark them off. There is an option to have them automatically mark off, I believe, in here, but I'm not sure where it is off the top of my head. Come back to it.
I've gone looking for those before, and I think only a DM can set that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, drag and dropping in the compendium. You can also manually add spells. You'd obviously have to look up the spell and type things in, but it's easy enough. Spell name, what school it is it a ritual or not, casting time, range, and all this information will be in the spell itself. What components it has, is it concentration or not, duration, spellcasting ability. Usually, trying to remember. I want to make sure I'm telling you right. Yeah, it's spell. So because I'm a cleric, my spellcasting ability is wisdom, which you can click here and change if that's not correct. Or if you are casting something from a different spell list because you're multi-classing, which we'll get to in a minute, you can also switch between them here. But if you are manually adding a spell, you will, if it matters, because not all spells do. Like if you're casting Bless, it doesn't matter what your spellcasting ability modifier is. It doesn't affect the spell. Assuming it does, you would pick spell as a spellcasting ability.
So this is
If you
where
get it like once,
this is where like a homebrew spell would really come into play, right?
right? Definitely, or like a third party if you're adding something in from another book, anything like that. This is the important place.
So on the
Innate,
spellcasting ability, would you essentially change that, say, if you took a feat, which lets you pick the spells and cantrips from a different class, and
right?
says
So
that you'd use your intelligence or whatever, would you change that at spellcasting ability as opposed to changing it up there?
yes, if it's one, if you've only got a couple of spells or whatever, or if you just feel like doing it, you can individually do it that way. Yes. It's really a matter of where you want to put the work in. If you want to front load the work, that is the way to do it, is to go in and pick the specific ones. So like, let's say I picked up this whatever spell as a wizard spell that's intelligence based. Click intelligence, and now it will always cast off of intelligence instead of wisdom as it normally would, since I'm a cleric. And I can do that for each individual spell. Or if I'm dragging and dropping a bunch of compendium spells in and I'm a cleric, it's automatically going to put them all based on spell by default. So if you don't want to go in and manually change things, then you could just switch over to wizard, cast your spell, switch back over. And that would be not front loading your work. That would be doing the extra work as it comes up as necessary. Um, Innate is things like you can cast this spell proficiency times per day, or you can cast this spell once per short rest, or you can cast this spell once per day, or whatever. You would put it here and it would pop up in the spell description whenever you cast it. And then the description itself. The output, if you have it set as a spell card, it's going to go off similar to a bless spell, which is going to look something like this. It's the spell card. If you have it set to an attack instead, it's going to go and look something like this, like an acid bolt, because it's literally an attack. And if you want the description of acid bolt, there's the show spell description. Pops up with basically the same information that's in the spell card. If you are doing a spell card, additional, like for example, cantrips that go up over time based on based on level, you would add that at higher levels here. Whereas with attack, you have multiple damage types if you need them. Healing, if it does healing separate, like Vampiric Touch, for example. And then whether or not it adds the ability modifier. If there's a saving throw affected, half damage. And then higher casting level damage if it goes up over time. So all of that can be specified if you're putting in one custom. And if you're not sure exactly the syntax, your best bet is to open up an existing one that was added, and you can look at it and get a better idea of how it is worded. All right. Let's see here. Manual adding spells and editing existing spells. Next is multi-class interactions. All right. So whenever you are multi-classing, you're going to have to go to the gear tab, which is what most of the rest of this presentation is going to be on tonight, is about the gear tab. Let's say my level 19 life domain cleric wants to multi-class one level into artificer. Well, let's say it's a cleric, so let's go with druid because that makes more sense. Well, let's not make sense. Let's do something that's going to be a little bit harder. Let's keep it with artificer. So if you have a subclass, you put that in there. Actually, let me change the numbers just to make things make a little bit more sense. We're going to go as a level 10 Life Cleric and a level 5 Artificer. Reason being, because they have different spell progressions. And what we want to see is the spell slots. I don't know why these are all like that. I guess from earlier. Let's long rest and see if it fixes it. Yep, that fixed it. So we'll notice the number of spell slots we have don't match that of either caster by themselves because it is the composite amount of both. It automatically calculates the correct number of spell slots for you in the character sheet. You don't have to do the math yourself. You don't have to figure it out yourself. It just is. So that's helpful. All right. Some common things that you will want to look at here on the gear tab for your character. DMs, if you're of a mind, you can go in through Roll20 beforehand, and at the launch screen of your room, you could actually change these settings for everyone so that they don't have to do it, so that it's just automatically done for them. But let's assume your DM is lazy or doesn't know about these options or whatever. Instead of going to game settings and going down to game default settings and changing things, we're going to do it ourselves for just our character. First things first, add Dex Tiebreaker to initiative. This makes it so that whenever you roll initiative, you'll see instead of a 1, I have a 1.12. That 0.12 is your dexterity score. So if you have a 12 dex, you have a 0.12. If you have an 18 dex, you have a 0.18. This makes it so that when you roll initiative, everybody who has using the tiebreaker, we can use, it's pretty obvious. If a 14.12 beats 14.11, useful. Next is the global modifiers. We've already shown you those. That's these right here. Nice and important. We already know how important those are. Expertise. So these are our skills list. And by default, everything's set to normal. Let's say I am a rogue and I pick up expertise. I want it in acrobatics and insight. So now, when I go back to the core, assuming I'm smart enough to have actually trained the two I'm talking about, you'll see that the full value adds the proficiency modifier twice, so 10 plus the relevant stat modifier. If you are a bard, jack of all trades can be toggled here. If you have reliable talent, and if you have a bonus passive perception, all of these things can be set up right here. The toggles. So always roll advantage. I hate personally. I don't know why it's always on by default, but always rolling advantage can be confusing and annoying, and I'm not a fan. So we'll switch over to advantage toggle. You can also put never roll advantage or query, which is where it has like a pop-up thing and requires an extra click every single time. Don't recommend it. Just use toggle, and it gives you right here options to toggle. Advantage, normal, disadvantage. Whisper rolls to GM. Whisper toggle, same thing. Now, whenever I do things, I can just click to GM, and I can make my roll, and you'll see it's kind of purpled out. That means it's 2GM, and it says it right there, 2GM. Only the GM can see that roll. Auto damage. So same thing with the longsword. I could do don't roll auto damage, but some people like auto damage, at which point, whenever they roll, there's the attack, there's the damage. It's all up to your preferences there. Some less common things. There is a crit range. So like if you're a champion, for example, you could bump that down to 19 or 20, or higher level champion 18 to 20. Encumbrance, I mentioned earlier already. There are options for that. You have simple variant, or you can just turn encumbrance off altogether. Ammo tracking, you can turn that on and off. If you that requires an API. I'm not going to get into APIs today, but there is a simple API that you can download that allows you to track your ammo, so that every time you fire, say, your bow, it removes an arrow from the tracked ammo here. It's pretty useful. Let's see. Manual additions to stats can be done here as well. Right here, bonuses to your saves, initiative modifier bonus, initiative style. If you have advantage on initiative, you would check this right here, so that now anytime you roll initiative, usually when you see roll advantage, you see the 2 like this. For whatever reason, initiative doesn't work that way. It uses the formula, which when you hover over it, you can see it's roll 2d20, keep the highest one. You can see you rolled a 6 and an 8, and it took the 8. So it's not visible, but it is there as long as you have it toggled right here. Spell slot, if for whatever reason you have extra spell slots, you give them to you here. So I have 4 extra first level spell slots. Suddenly go here and I've got 8 spell slots total. These are just like edge use cases at this point. Powerful build, Halfling Luck, Arcane Fighter, Arcane Rogue, or weird hit die, change of magic, your caster level for some reason. Any sort of like edge case things can usually be found here in the gear. If you have a custom class, you would put all the information in here. That would be like, very much homebrew content. Charactermancer, again, I'm not covering that at all, but if you need to level up in Charactermancer, this is where it's done. It is possible to use a combination of Charactermancer and manual editing, but it has been known to be weird because it like adds back-end information through the attributes and abilities screen that can change things back without your consent, basically. Like if I used Charactermancer to get my stuff, and then I went and manually changed stuff and thought everything was good and closed it and left and came back in the next time a week later to play, I might find that some of the things that I changed has been reverted back, and I don't know why, and I don't know exactly what. It has historically been known to cause problems. So, again, recommend. It's kind of an all or nothing with Charactermancer. If you want to use it, more power to you. But it doesn't play well with manual editing because of, again, back-end stuff that it does through this screen. Even more rare would be things like if you want to change the core dice roll from D20 to something else. Then at that point, you're not even playing D&D really, but it's there. Bonus spell slots I mentioned already. Custom classes. Yeah, that's about it. I think that pretty much covers all of the bases for players.